Evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. Oh, that's better. The light's on. Lovely to see you all here, especially on such a lovely afternoon. A little bit warm in this room, but it has been a lovely day. So we've been down to, if you don't know, we live on the coast and we have the lifeboat day today. And I've realised that I've watched it probably getting on for 40 or 50 times. So, yeah, but it's still very lovely and raising funds for such a good cause. So that's been lovely. I hope you've had a good day, good weekend as well. I've got a rather lovely thing to do with you today. So I've got some, now neither of these things are new to every one of you. So the Decorative Corner Easy Frames is a new collection. This one is called Vintage. And I launched this at my last in-person workshop, so about six weeks or so ago. So some people have already seen that, and it's just perfect. So I will be showing you that in all its glory, and I'm going to mix it with some layering stencils or masks. They are lovely. They are from Hunky Dory. They're called For the Love of Masks, and there's two sorts. I'm going to be using the layering winter foliage, but there is another one which I will show you as well, which is called the layering Fair Isle pattern. So I will show you that as well because they're both lovely. Inks, you can see them sitting on my side here. I'm going to use some of the Memento dewdrops. Now, these are dye-based inks and they work really well with what I want to do today. And, oh, you can't see that one. Let's put them there. So 5 different colours I'm going to use. I'll explain everything in just a little while. I'm also going to be using the Hunky Dory Grip Mat just to make life a little bit easier when I'm doing stenciling and masks. All right. So, oh, some works with a lifeboat in Northern Ireland. Gosh. My great-great-grandfather used to do such a thing as well in Northern Ireland too. So there you go, Anne. So I'm going to put these colours. I will tell you all what they are in a little while. I'm going to put them all to one side. And whilst you can see all those things, you can see where you can nip over to get them. There are plenty in stock, so they shouldn't be gone before the end of today. But hopefully they'll be with us for quite a while. So maximumcrafts.com, and that's where you'll find all the loveliness. Okay, so let me introduce you first of all to the Decorative Corners Easy Frames. And as I said, this one is called Vintage. So I'm going to show you a card that we did, well, that I never finished, in all honesty. This is the corners in all their glory. So this is to fit a 7x7 card blank. I had so many people say we love doing the small ones, but when we want to do a special card, we like to use a slightly bigger card. So this is more to fit for the 7x7 cards. As you can see, they've got a decorative corner. And the idea is that instead of having to cut 4 little corners, your smaller frame is already has that cut with it. So when I bring in the die itself, you'll see what I mean, that it's got these corners already pre-cut, which makes it a really lovely, easy frame. They get easier, don't they? So that's what it looks like in all its glory if it's just basic. This is one of the cards that we did. I think you'll recognise the dies there. This is what we actually did in our in-person workshop. So you can see I used silver and white for that sort of thing, but it's a really lovely, classy, I think, and we like classy, don't we? So classy outline there. And so these are the 2 dies. So you have a plain outer one, and that measures about 16 centimeters square. And then you've got the aperture there, which I should have measured for you, but the aperture measures about 12 centimeters. So more or less your outer one is sort of 6 1/4, and your inner one is 5. So it's a nice sort of use for you. And then the inner one is just fractionally smaller all round, but as I said, already has those corners, those vintage corners, as we're going to call them, for the middle there. Okay, so that is our decorative corners easy frames, but the vintage design, because I'm going to do a couple more of those as we go on in the year. Maybe even into next year, but with those corners already done, I think it just gives it a nice little finish. Anne, I will. Sorry, Anne and I are having a chat about the lifeboat. I'll have to check. I can't remember. So I do have done my family history, and in doing that, we discovered that he was a lifeboatman. Or Coast Guard lifeboatman, same thing I think it was then, because we're going back a long time, 1800s. But yeah, long time ago. I'll have a look and I'll let you know. So there's our frame. Now, I'm going to frame our work today, and these are the 2 Love of Masks layering stencils. So you've got this one, which is the Fair Isle pattern. So as you can see, you've got, I'm going to use this later on, but you've got a little ray of reindeer, and then you've got the sort of things that would be on a Fair Isle pattern, really. The lovely flower down the bottom, Christmas tree, and some snowflakes, that type of thing. They also do a paste, a stencil paste texture type thing. And I want to have a go with doing that, because you can actually pick out, again, I used this in a workshop recently, another in-person one where we use this, and I wanted to actually do a little row of the reindeer in gold with the paste, because that would look lovely. However, the paste is out of stock, and I know that when some of you see the things, you really would love to have a go at it. And I think it's a little bit unfair for me to show you something when I know you can't get it. So hence why I'm not going to do that part of things just yet. Wait until I can get the stock, so that if you need it, it will be there. Okay. So this is the one I'm going to be using. This is called Layering Winter Foliage. Now I'm going to be very traditional. I am going to do it, as you possibly notice from the colours that I have sneaking in the side here, I am going to do it in a traditional way, but I have already done one in blues. Now, it's not everybody's cup of tea for Christmas to go in a blue fashion, but I just think it looks really very modern and rather yummy, really. So let me show you it in blue. So I chose 4 different shades of distress inks. Pop them away now, so I can't remember what they are, but I'll find out for you. But just to give you a really different look, and just go for blues. And then if you can just see, if I move the card, I then took glossy accents and popped them on top of all of the little berries, which I will do again today, because I think that just finishes it off. If you're not familiar with it, I will put some links up to this later. So this is Glossy Accents, comes in a little bottle. It's sort of a glue, but dries clear and dries with dimension. So it gives you that if you put it down as a little blob, it will end up being a blob, whereas a lot of glue will just soak into the paper. And it just works well for this sort of thing. And as you can see, you've got your decorative cornered pieces there, just looking rather lovely. And I've teamed that in with some blues, the blue glitter and the soft blue, or is it sky blue? Sky blue, for the card. Unfortunately, the stock of my card stock has deplenished before I've even popped it onto the onto the group again today. So I'm going to have to make sure I've got enough for you. So it will be Wednesday. I do apologise about that. Wednesday, when you're going to get the new colours. So we will be getting the red, the green and the blue on Wednesday. So let's make a start. Now, I'm not quite sure. I have already cut out my white piece, so you can see just in one I've cut it out of white card, and you've got those corners there. The one thing I would say is, because you have got a lot of intricate design there, is pop your actual die. Let me just get it. When you go to do it, pop your die onto your card. and trim it down so that you're not putting that whole A4 piece in. Trim it down so that you're only just putting in the right amount. And then, imagine your machine is this way, pop your machine in that way and then turn it around and give it one more go that way. And then that way you'll find that you haven't got any problem at all with taking all these little bits out. Okay. I haven't decided what colour I'm going to do my larger one at the moment, because I want to see what colour I finish up with. So I'm going to leave that and we'll decide in a little while for it. So I'm going to bring in my grip mat. Now I've actually popped my grip mat onto a different mat because you wouldn't be able to see it otherwise. So subsequently I've popped it onto there, and it's not ideal, but it's better for you to be able to see it. I've cut myself a piece of card, white ordinary card, which is 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres. It is larger than the masks. The masks are 12 centimetres. And I personally prefer to do it in a slightly different way than they suggest. I'll show you how I mean. And so therefore I've gone for a slightly bigger piece of paper than they would probably suggest. When I say they, I mean, of course, Hunky Dory, who have very cleverly written down everything. So it's so handy that you can see from here what colours go where. Each of your stencils are marked A, B, C, D. So clearly you go work for the first one, A first, B, C, and then D. And it's even giving you some ideas of colours that you could use. Now they suggest the colours from their own ink pads, which are Prism ink pads. I have to admit the jury's out for me on them. Not overly happy with them. They were very sticky. However, they did wash off perfectly. So yeah, just not quite for me. I just prefer usually distress inks, but I thought this is a nice range. We'll give the Mementos a go. So we are doing something a bit different. But it does give you an idea of what type of colour you want. So you've got your red, your lighter brown, your sort of dark, well, lighter holly, and then a darker holly, and then a brown again, slightly darker for your detail. So let's get stencil number A. I'm really not quite sure whether you can see that, but there is a little tiny A on that top corner. So I'm going to centre that as much as I can, but that isn't crucial if it's not absolutely centre. And I'm going to pop a little bit of tape to keep it in place. So where I don't need to worry about getting ink. Now, when I look at this, I can see that I've got 1, 2, 3 areas, as is marked here, 1, 2, 3, that should be of a brown colour, and the rest of them are red. So I'm going to do the brown colours first. So let me just get my colours out. I think I'll go for that one with my brown colours. Let me take a bit of, just going to make sure I get off those colours as I can. So my first colour that I'm going to use is called Desert Sand. So that's my lighter brown. I'm going to pick up my colour and I'm just going to work that onto the area which we know from the packet is where we want the browns to go. And this is for the base colour for the pine cones. So I'm being careful. I could mask it off so that I could go rather randomly. In fact, I ought to a certain extent. It's just, I don't want to get too much anywhere else. So I'm just going to pop some tape over to those so that I don't go onto my holly too much. I can put my finger on those ones. And I'm just laying down this colour. I'm using one of my blending brushes. I like these ones because they're a tower, I think you would call it, really, of colour. Darker you get, the more layers you put on, the darker you get. Now, I'm not worrying about going over the edge because of the size of the decorative easy frames, that is not going to show. So therefore, I'm not worried at all about going over the edge. In fact, I'm almost actively going to do it because I want to be able to see when I put my next layers down exactly where they should be going. Okay, so that was my lightest colour, desert sand. Then I'm going to grab my colour here, which is the red one, and that's called Love Letters. Okay, so I'm going to ink up my piece there, and then anywhere that there is a bit of red, I'm your man. I'm going over it all. And as I said, I am going over the edges in places so that I can see properly where my lineup should be. You can just mark with a pencil, so just draw opposite corners. You've got like a little notch taken out, so you can just do opposite corners. Let's take these off now, otherwise I won't get them, will I? And I now have to be just a bit careful that I don't get red onto the corners of my pine cones. Okay, so I'm just laying down the red, and again, the more that you lay down, the more colour you lay down, the more intense this will be. I do recommend that you use a dye-based ink. I do find that a water-based ink is better, so that's this one. If you use the pigment inks, which are oil-based, you can get in a bit more of a pickle. And if you don't like getting in a pickle, then that should be the one to go for. So that's all that done with that colour. Pop that one down, and I can now take off this first stencil because we have finished with that. So I'm just going to get hold of it and pull that. So you can see it's a bit of a funny shape, but you can see quite clearly that I've marked, well, that one anyway, not marked down there, but you can see it quite clearly. So then I'm going to take my B, and if you look, you've got B up in that top left. So I'm going to mark that, make sure those two align, and that should be everything else align. And this one only needs to be done in one colour green. So I'm going to take the slightly lighter colour green, which I've chosen Bamboo Leaves for that. So again, I'm going to pick that up, and wherever there is a bit of green, then I'm going over it. It really is simple, and I really think that it's fun to do. I like the stenciling. I think it was possibly Tony Darroch that came up with the stenciling and the embossing folders, very closely followed by Lisa Horton, and I think it's such a lovely idea. So this hasn't got embossing folders with it, of course, because that does start to get expensive as well when you've got all of those other items with it. But does make a really fun project to do, as well as nice and simple too. And as you saw from the blue one that I had there, you can do any colours at all. It's quite nice to just choose a range of, say, all pinks or all reds or, you know, different shades of, so that you can just vary the shade and it gives you a completely different look. But as I said, I'm going much more for the traditional. So I just want to make sure that I've got plenty on there. So just going round in circles there. Sorry, I haven't been looking up. I should have looked up. Oh, Helen's here at last. That's good. Is the mat sticky? Yes, it is. It is a sticky mat. It's called a grip mat. And yes, it is. It's holding it in place. But because, in this case, my stencil, that I'm using, or mask, is smaller than a piece of paper, it can't actually use that. But of course it's then holding the paper that is being held in place by that. So it sort of works out quite nicely. So then I'm going to take my C. So again, that's in that top corner. You might want to, if you decide that you want them, you might want to decide to put a little pen mark on there, because I have to admit they are rather difficult to see. In certain lights they're better, but they can be a little bit difficult to see. So you may decide that you'd prefer to actually put your own sort of mark on them. So as I said, that one was the lighter colour and bamboo leaves. And now I'm going for cottage ivory, which is a slightly darker green. And this one is going to pick up the elements of the holly leaves, but it's also going to pick up some lovely fir tree bits, pine needles type of thing. Now you will, when you put them on, because there's lots of different elements here, and they are some of them, the pine leaves, are very delicate. So you do need to put this on with a sort of a swirling motion that will then make sure that you get into all of the little areas. And make sure that once you've got whichever stencil it is, make sure that you're going into every little bit that has got an open area, so that you can be sure that when you put it all together, you've got it in the right places. Okay. As I said, I can't wait to show you the one with the gold in. So it's really very, very different. But unfortunately, the gold pastes are a bit like hen's teeth. They sort of go as soon as they come back in stock. So I'm just going over those pine leaves and doing it in sort of a backward and forward motion to make sure that I've got that right to the corner and got every little extra bit in there. There we go. Should start to look really fab now. So let's just take that off. So this was the third one. Yeah, looking good. And then finally, just when you think, well, actually, you know, that looks really lovely, you just wait to see what this final one does. So that's it before we've got the final little tiny bits. But when we put this on, it's incredible. Hold on, I'm just trying to check that that's all in the right line of fire, which it is. I'll put that down there. Just don't want to hit that with anything. So I'm going to use one last colour, and in this case it's going to be rich cocoa. So that's the darker brown. And I think let's use that one for it. I'm going to pick up this darker brown and I'm going to go over every little bit, and you won't really see what it is that you're supposed to be picking up almost, because it's very fine detail, until you actually go over it. And then when you take this off, it's amazing. It really transforms it. Hold that into place. So again, I've got to make sure that I work this ink into all the little pieces. So you can see this is giving more detail for the pine cones. It's giving more detail for the pine needles and that sort of thing. But it's also giving details for the little berries. Just when you didn't think you even needed details, to be honest. Just got to make sure I go into all the little bits. And so the decorative corner collection, we've got a Christmas one coming out, so that again you don't have to arrange your own corners there, so it makes a little bit of a difference. But it's perfect for this type of thing. Otherwise you sort of think, well, now what? You've done all the masks and now what? And this, as I said, is what? When we put our decorative corners, vintage ones on there, you'll see. So I think I've covered it all. Put the lid back on there. Just pop these all together again. So I keep these sort of all different colours, but all in a tube, and it's really handy. Oops. Right, so there's that one. So let's just take this off. And then you just wait till you see, oh, if I could get hold of it, the reveal. Look at that. Tiny little details of these tiny little dots make such a difference. You've then got very much more detail. I know it's only tiny, but little dots onto those berries and in exactly the right place. Little, I don't even know what you call them, but little bits on top of the berries there, just in the perfect place. Little placement of the stems of those pine needles just work perfectly. So one thing I am going to do, I'm going to just peel this off. So that's off of there. I'm going to come back to that in just a second, because my friend Di, who unfortunately, so I'm sort of giving her a shout out, but I'm also saying even more of a shout out because she's on holiday. She's been on holiday all this week, celebrating her daughter's birthday included. And today, whilst on holiday, I've heard before I came online that she has fallen and broken something to do with her hand, I think, or they're going to take her and find out. So poor old Di. Hope you feeling 100% soon. But she said, and that I couldn't attend a little while ago, and they suggesting stencils that you don't need a whole huge bowl of soapy water. You need a kitchen towel, paper towel, and a baby wipe, and you pop it onto there, and then you simply wipe the front of where all your ink is, and then any of your spare ink that you didn't want and you wanted cleaned off goes through all the little holes. So you've got sort of a pattern there. You pick it up, wipe that over, and you've got it clean and dry on both sides. And we had to give it a little bit of a, is this right? Because it seemed to be almost too easy, and why hadn't we ever thought of it? And when we had a go at it, we thought, gosh, yeah. So simply put it onto the paper towel, not an absolute sodden piece of cloth, and not having to drip them dry. Wipe them onto there, move it around, wipe it, and it's completely dry and clean, because that's the most important thing, isn't it? Dry and clean. Let me just do the last two, so that otherwise I'll have forgotten about it. So top tip from our Di, who's unfortunately not able to be with us in person here today, but we wish her all the best as well. Red is always the one that stains the worst, but even so, we can get that all nice and dry without making too much mess. And then just dry that off. Looks pretty as well, doesn't it? And they're all done. And then they go back into the packet, even pops into the little packet there. Keep them all safe, and you know that they're all in there together. So now we need to decide, bring this back in again. Doesn't that look lovely? I mean, you can use your glossy accents, but you could also use like your clear Wink of Stella, that type of thing, to give it a bit of glitter. You could put some clear glue on any of these and then sprinkle glitter over the top of it. That would look nice too. So I've got my frame. Now I had already cut one out in green, but it was a moss green, which I think, hold on, let's get the card itself. So that's my 7x7 card blank. I'm going to pop that straight onto my card front. Pop them down. What do you think? Looks pretty good, doesn't it? Already looks pretty good. Yeah. I think I'm going to just stick with that, actually. I meant to actually cut it out, but I think it looks quite good. So that's moss green is the card, and that's with just the ordinary white frontage there. So let's pop this together. I'm going to turn that over. I want to, because I want these corners to have plenty of glue on, I'm going to actually use my little meat baster. Just take off last lot and then just go over those little corners so that we know that I've got glue into all of those outside bits. It is very warm in here, so I'm going to have to be quick to do that. And then just put glue on these other bits here. And I know, though, because I've sort of done my little brush technique there, that I don't have to worry about it's seeping out, because I don't like that if it seeps out. Hopefully it will still stick, because as I said, it's baking in here. So just line that up like we do any of the easy frames. Pop those corners. Those corners also lend themselves, I think, beautifully to having pearls and any other bits and pieces on them, don't they? But because I've used my little meat baster there, just ordinary meat baster, chopped off and then picked the glue up, it's gone to those edges beautifully. Now turn that over. I'm going to pop some foam onto that so that it raises it up, and then I will put some glossy accents on, but I'll only do that just when we've finished. I'm just going to put some foam tape there. The foam rolls are due to now be back in stock with me later on this week, hopefully Wednesday they should be in. So I'm going to stick this one down. You could trim it. You can trim it down a little bit if you wish, but I'm okay with not having to trim it down. The frame itself hides it, so you don't need to really do that. And that was the way that the right way for these images to be shown. So in this case, that pine cone was sort of facing upwards. All right, so I'm going to just, hopefully, I'm just popping that there. And before I stick it down properly, I'm just going to hover that over the top. I think I need to bring it down a little bit. That's better. So just push that into place and pop this one over the top. So yes, we have made a Christmas card. However, the actual decorative corner easy die is suitable for anything. This is one that's more of a feminine one perhaps, but it would also look equally good masculine and clearly equally good for Christmas. So with my glossy accents, just going to take that, and wherever there's a little bit of red, I'm just going to pop a little blob onto each piece. And as I said, this is a dimensional accent or a dimensional glue, and so it will still remain well, a blob, not a flattened blob, but a blob, but it will dry clear. If you can see it, I'm not sure if you can see it closely enough like that, but at the moment it's slightly milky, slightly opaque, but when it dries, I'll show you the blue one again in a second. And in this heat, it won't be long. It'll only probably be about half an hour before it's dry, because I'm not putting it on in great big amounts. But it just gives it a little bit of a something. Obviously, you can put your sentiments on it You could put, like what we did was put a little banner there with the Merry Christmas or whatever. Oh, I am going to put it in there, even though it's almost not out of sight. Have I done them all? I think I have. So I'm not going to bend it too much, or not bend it at all, but I'm just going to, hopefully that you can see that there is already a little bit of a shine on there. You can see where I've put it on all the berries. But if I bring in this blue one, you can see what that then dries to. So you can see that wherever, same idea, just the blueberries, I put the glossy accents on, and that just makes them stand out just a little bit more. So there you go, folks. There are our new frames. As I said, not entirely new, because some people will already have them. Those who were able to be with me in person about 6 weeks ago. The Decorative Corner Easy Frames vintage ones were available then. So many of you already have them. But they are on general today. So we've got those, and we've got the masks, which, as I said, are either the layering winter foliage, which is the ones that I've done here, and also we have the layering Fair Isle pattern. And same thing here, you've got the colours, you've only got 4 colours with this, so you've got probably the same colour I had here would be fine. So you could use desert sand for anything where it says stars and sparkle, but I think I would then go for stars and sparkle, which would be my texture paste. You've got the red for the hearts and baubles. The Christmas trees, I would go for this one, which is the cottage ivy. And then the reindeer, again, could be either the darker brown, rich cocoa, or the gold, which I will show you as soon as I can get hold of some for you. All right. So there you go. All round easy, which is what we like. Now, if you would like any of these products, pop over to the website there, and I will get them out to you as soon as. Just an update with my brother-in-law. I did say that he's very poorly. He's still very poorly, I'm afraid. So we are having to go to see him, which is quite a trek from us. And also we've got visitors over from Spain, which is lovely. Really looking forward to seeing them. And I've got to pack your orders. So if they are a little bit later than I will try my very best to not let them be later. In fact, my visitors don't realise that they may well be on the books this week. But if they are a little bit later, please bear with me. I am doing my very, very utmost this week just to get it all out for you. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Really lovely to see you all here. A few little thumbs up would be good if you could. It would be really appreciated. Where's my leaflet, just to remind you? So those are all the bits and pieces. And down here we have, I shall see you again on Wednesday, the 13th of August at 6 o'clock. And be using some more of the frames with you, some different ideas for you. Okay, so thank you very much for, or better not put that on there, it'll dry off. We don't want to do that. Thank you very much for joining me today. Take care, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.